Good afternoon, everyone. How are you? I'm just getting my sound effects ready here. You know, most every morning when I wake up to the following alarm on my cell phone. I'm sure many of you do the same. But there are days when I'm very tired, or I slip into a very deep sleep, or have something very big and important to do the following day. So I need an alarm that sounds more like this. You guys get what I'm saying? In our world, I think that second alarm is what we need to hear, because many in our world are fast asleep. I truly believe God is trying to get our attention. But Jesus said, they have ears to hear but do not hear, and eyes to see but do not see. In today's gospel, Jesus has just fed the 5,000 and was going up the mountain by himself to pray. But before that, it says that he made his disciples get in the boat and precede him to the other side. He sends them out into the Sea of Galilee. Not long after they set out, a storm hits, and the boat is getting tossed about. The boat is a metaphor for the church. It always has been. The church, like the boat, is in the midst of a big storm and is getting tossed about. Now, the church, this massive boat moving through history, filled with his disciples, has had its share of storms throughout the 2,000 years. But if we have eyes to see and ears to hear, we know that we are in a big storm right now. The storm is not only around the boat, but it's in the boat as well. From the sex abuse scandals, to the way they were handled, to the corruption at different levels, to our silence on controversial matters, I could go on and on, but the signs are there. And with over 6 million Catholics in the Diocese of Los Angeles, San Bernardino, and Orange, approximately 3,000 or 0.01% peacefully showed up and prayerfully protested as the Dodger organization honored a group that openly mocks the Catholic faith. Well, we should be offended, and many of us were. In fact, a friend of mine said to me he had packed away all his Dodger gear, put it all in a trunk, his hats, his jerseys, and his jacket. He packed them away, and he said to me, I don't know if I can wear them again. When Prop 1 came up last year, Catholic voters failed to form a bloc to stop the expansion of abortion in our state. And as states implement more radical and aggressive sex education programs for our children, many parents remain silent. And some have opted to not to entrust their children to public school, but to do homeschool. And in fact, attendance for Catholic schools has gone up. When our children, Sylvia and I's son and daughter, when they were in middle school here in the public school district, we got a letter stating that they were going to implement a new sex education program, and that we as parents, if we wanted to come take a look, were welcome to do so. So we did. We went to the school office, we walked in, and we told her what we wanted, the secretary, and she looked at us very surprised, kind of gave us a funny look, like we were from another planet. After we looked at the curriculum and found that it didn't have anything that was contrary to our faith, we left. But the reality is, and what she told us, is that you are the only parents who have come in and asked to take a look at this. Nobody bothered to come take a look. There is another storm brewing that we cannot turn a blind eye to. It is the tragedy of human trafficking, the enslavement of an estimated 30 million men, women, and children, mostly women and children. There has never been more people enslaved in all of history than in our day. This international network of human trafficking is the fastest growing crime network that the world has ever seen. And the purpose? Slave labor, sexual slavery, and organ harvesting. Now, raise your hands if you have gone to see The Sound of Freedom. Okay, good. About 1/10 of those of us sitting here. This movie is another alarm that is sounding today. And when I watched it and I listened to what they were saying, it was a wake-up call for me. I had no idea the extent. It demands our attention because in order to defeat evil, in order to defeat it, we have to identify it. We have to shine a light on it and bring it out from the shadows. Sound of Freedom was completed, the filming was completed in 2018, and it was set to be released in 2019 by Fox Studios. But then Fox was bought by Disney. And Disney sat on the movie for 3 years and did not release it. Eventually, Angel Studios was able to acquire the rights to the films. Angel Studios is the same one that brought The Chosen to us. And they released it this July 4th. Hollywood studios have been stunned by its success at the box office, bringing over $150 million. It has outdone many movies with 10 times the budget. This is an amazing, eye-opening movie that we all need to see. In fact, it is showing at Harkins at 7 p.m. later, 7:35 and 9:05. So you may want to go take a look. So how does this relate to today's gospel? Well, Jesus walks on water in the midst of a storm, trying to reassure his disciples. Now, if you've ever been on a boat during a storm or a plane with bad turbulence, you know how the disciples must have felt. But in the midst of the storm, Peter stands up. He stands up and he speaks out and he says to Jesus, "Call me out, Lord, to come out onto the water." And Jesus says, "Come." Peter steps out of the boat and starts to walk on the water towards Jesus. And what happens next? He saw how strong the wind was and the waves, the crashing of the waves, and he takes his eyes off Jesus. He does what we all do sometimes. And he sees the storm and he allows fear to creep into his heart. The good thing is that he cries out to Jesus, "Lord, save me." Our tendency in the storms of life is to tell God how big our storms are rather than telling our storms how big our God is. Amen? Isn't it true? Don't we do that? My brothers and sisters, we are his disciples. And Jesus has put us in this boat called the Catholic Church. God has you and I in this world at this time in history for a reason. Pray for eyes to see and ears to hear when he calls you to step out into the water and into the storms of the world. And make time to go see The Sound of Freedom. Now, I'd like you to project that image for us, Nick. There you go. In the midst of the storm, while we, his disciples, sit in the boat, overcome by fear or worse, indifference, we need to stand up like Peter and accept Jesus' invitation to take a step onto the stormy waters of this world. And if we get overwhelmed by the storm and take our eyes off Jesus, and we will, even if but for a moment, we call out to Jesus and he will take us by the hand, pull us out of the stormy waters, and say to us what he said to his disciples long ago. In John 16, he's preparing his disciples for his departure, and he says to them, "These things I have spoken to you, so that in me you will have peace. In the world you will have tribulation, but take courage. I have overcome the world."